season number 5. Happy late anniversary, Peter Schrager.
Yes. Happy 5th birthday to our wonderful show. We're all here and the 4 of us are together. It is good to be back.
Very nice tan you got there, kid.
Got a good tan. Rest versus rust. That's
right?
the old debate.
Peter, I think the last time you were here, we were reacting to Zach Wilson's pro day. I think that was. It's been a minute, Peter. You feel good?
I feel great.
Awesome.
We're all
You were
a
in
little-
Arizona?
I was in Arizona.
So is
yes.
it Pete versus the Heat? Like, what was going on?
Let's just say this. If we wanted it to be a little bit colder, we could have hung out in the sun.
Is that right?
115 degrees in Arizona. Oh my, how do you do it? Actually, no one up here, no one watching is in Arizona right now. It's 4 a.m.
That's
How do you do it?
You're golden, though, baby. You look good.
You
24
look
karat,
good. I
baby.
think we're all a little mad at you because you've made us wait till Wednesday to talk about the Kurt Warner debacle.
We'll talk about it today.
Okay, we'll get to it on the show. We've got Inside Training Camp Live taking over at 10 a.m. Eastern. We've got Logan Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Howie Roseman, Coach Sean Payton, Coach Frank Reich will be joining our intrepid reporters across the league. Is it time for the lead block?
Time for the lead block.
Let's do it. We're going to actually start here in New York. Things are interesting. Things are busy at training camp yesterday. The Giants' newly acquired wide receiver Kenny Golladay. Bad news for him. We were hearing reports that he didn't have the best start to camp from Kim Jones. Well, he left practice early with an apparent leg injury. The extent is unclear, but according to the team, the hefty-priced free agent walked off under his own power, so that's some optimism there for Giants fans. Keep it here on NFL Network for the very latest, of course, on that one. The real action from Giants training camp, of course, came in the form of a little brouhaha, if you will. Ralph Acciano reported that there was a pile-up with a quarterback named Daniel Jones, who scrutinized a lot and talked about at this table. He was at the bottom of said pile. Now, I'm not like a fighter. I worked in a bar for a while. I just know you don't put the guy in the red shirt at the bottom of the pile. Joe Judge was livid. A lot of push-ups, a lot of running took place all across the board. Everybody had to do it. Jones was asked how his head coach handled the scuffle. Here is that.
There's consequences for that kind of stuff, and that's the way it is in the game. You know, if you lose your cool, there's consequences. That hurts the team. So that was the message, and I think everyone understands that.
Have you ever seen him that angry before?
Yeah, he's a pretty, he can get excited, and I think, guys respond to it, and I think they certainly got the message today.
I think, Daniel, some people say, starting quarterback, kind of stay out of that. What made you want to run in and participate?
I'm part of the team, and I don't, part of the team, part of the offense, and we're competing, so I don't see myself separated from that.
All right, Peter Schrager, you're just in time for our first brawl. This happens from time to time with different teams. What does it mean for this one specifically in this year with that quarterback?
This is the first day they were in pads. And the story that I heard is that there had been a lot of chirping, and then this brawl goes out. And it wasn't just few players here, the entire team, offense versus defense, like a real brawl. Now, why is there no footage? Because the Giants and their media rules, they say can't be videotaping, but the reporters were watching it, so you're getting tweets nonstop. They had this full brawl, and Logan Ryan, who was with you guys last week, and I watched him on the show, and it was fantastic. He spoke after practice, and I thought he'll get Giants fans fired up with this answer. Take a listen.
We had Kiwi, Justin Tuck, and O.C. Miura come speak to us yesterday, and they talked about how great teams, they take the identity of their head coach, which is Joe Judge, which was Tom Coughlin, but the players run the locker room. Players got to take ownership. Players are tired of losing games around here. The fan base is tired. Us players are tired. Management gave us an opportunity to give us better roster this year. They allocated the funds to it, and we're coming out and competing. But we got respect for each other, 100%. But we're going to protect our sides. We're going to compete. So if our nucleus, if our key veterans are together, the locker room will follow. Just like the great defensive linemen and the great linebackers and the great leaders of this team in the past. You don't think they had chippiness about them? You don't think they had griminess about them? We play in New Jersey, man. So there's going to be some chippiness. There's going to be some griminess. But we're leaving it within the lines. And I'll take a team like that.
And what I heard afterwards was they talked about it. Joe Judge was livid, but then there was laughter in the locker room, and everyone came together. And here's the deal with this team. Not that they're run like a college team, but there's a lot of college elements where we're going to lift together, and Joe Judge is going to talk to everybody in the room as equals. When you finally put the pads on, there was so much stuff simmering that it finally happened, but this cannot happen again. They're two They're too young. They're not the Buccaneers or the Chiefs. Like, the Giants can't be having brawls in practice every day. But for one day to set this thing off, it was like a stick of dynamite. And I think it's actually a really good thing because they got the chippiness and they came together afterwards. I'm into it. I think the Giants
I can tell.
Fired up.
My question is just who's playing Joe Judge in the movie? Like, it's this classic.
The Junction Boys.
Yeah, maybe. I think it might be like Jason Momoa at this point. The only thing that's keeping Joe Judge from being my favorite coach in the league is Dan Campbell, and we'll get to him in a bit. This is the most interesting thing that happens to the Giants in 2 years. We're starting the show with the Giants, and it's not about is Daniel Jones good or not. Listen, sometimes you got to brawl, and I understand that comes off strange, but these are grown men in pads who haven't hit anybody in 9 months. And I heard it, and I go, all right, first day in pads, let me guess. There was a bit of a late hit on the defense to the offense, and then the offense guy had to stand up. And sure enough, the breakdown that I read was Corey Clement got hit late by Jabril Peppers. Evan Engram came over for the sake of the offense and shoved Peppers, and then Logan allegedly tackled Engram from behind. So it's like there's this whole thing that I think is still crucial in football. This primal, almost Lord of the Flies, competitive, like we are establishing who we are as fighters, and the defense is not going to get punked, and the offense is not going to get punked. And I think it all translates on Sundays to where the whole team is not going to get punked. He said it perfectly. It was the greatest clip to play. Yeah. We haven't won in a while. These idols that we have, like Kiwanuka and Tuck, like they're telling us that we need to get tougher. And I think it's an absolutely great thing. No one was hurt. No one was injured, and that's huge.
Conversation.
Huge. That's everything. It's almost like, you know how like in the Ron Burgundy brawl, he's like, no touching of the hair or face. In this, it's like, no touching of the knees or shoulders. And as long as that's it, guys, I all of a sudden, I'm like, I see the Giants differently. And I got to tell you, Nate, Daniel Jones in that clip we showed had a different body posture than I've ever seen. Like, he seemed like he was amped. I almost wanted him to, like, spit blood as he walked off. Like, there was some badass to Daniel Jones that I've been looking for, and I'm here for it.
He was in the pile.
I know.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That escalated quickly.
Yeah, jumped up a notch.
I think Logan tackled a man.
Yeah, high life.
It's good. This is a great thing for the New York Giants. Yeah. When was the last time you described the Giants as tough? I'm not talking about tough players individually. I'm not talking about the early 2000s where they had a host of players on offense and defense that go down as local legends and even some Hall of Famers. I'm not talking about those guys. I'm talking about a tough team. 1986 when Lawrence Taylor anchored them and they won a Super Bowl? 1990? Anchored again once by Lawrence Taylor and a group of guys, and were dominant on defense and bullies on the block. Had some issues off the field, but we're talking about on the field. Those were tough teams. There's a difference between having a tough team and a collection of tough guys. Mm-hmm. And for the first time in a long time, we're describing the New York Giants as possibly being one of the tough teams. Not in NFC East, not in the NFC, but in the entire NFL. And Peter, you touched on it. As long as it doesn't spill into the locker room, I'm okay with it. I'm good with a scuffle or two. If you're willing to scuffle with your brothers, I know that same guy will fight with the others. Let me repeat that. If you are willing to scuffle with your brothers, I know that you can fight the others. What do I mean by that? On the field, it's going down. It's third quarter. There's a little chippiness. I want the guy next to me to stand up and fight for me. He doesn't have to go out there and get a penalty. He doesn't have to do anything stupid. A flag doesn't need to be thrown, but I need to know he has my back. And I do because we've been in scuffles and fights at practice. As long as I don't hate you when I walk into the locker room and I go home, we're good. This is a great thing for the Giants.
You guys all agree. Great thing for the Giants. I am prone to not liking fights. I did bartend at a high-volume sports bar in the middle of the country where this would happen. Two guys who were friends, buddies, coworkers would fight over the buck hunter machine or who get shuffleboard next. And you'd see it a mile away. It'd come to blows. Next thing you know, they're winning the tournament because they're best friends again. And that aggression, that energy is really so. I see what you're saying. I'll also point out, Schrager, I thought about Gettleman and his vantage point with this. The last time I feel like we had this sort of a training camp brawl situation was 2015, and it was a quarterback, Cam Newton, Josh Norman. They came to blows on the field, and it was talked about for days. We weren't on this show yet. This is before a show, but the media was all over it. And then what happened? They went 15-1 and went to a Super Bowl. So I think if Gettleman's probably sitting at his desk like, all right, maybe this isn't the worst thing, Schrags, that they got into a little high-energy, passionate bout.
No, and, Evan Engram in the local market is looked at as a guy who was a high draft pick and drops a lot of passes in big moments. moments. It's like to see Evan Ingram getting a scrap is good.
My barber can't stand Evan Ingram.
Evan Ingram has become public enemy number one to a lot of Giants fans because he symbolizes a tight end who necessarily doesn't block as well as others, a first-round pick and drops passes. So to hear that he was involved and then that the offense had his back, like, it's weird to be celebrating a brawl. It can't happen again. Like,
But Peter, I think the devil's in the details because there's a brawl where all the guys in pads are pushing and shoving, and then there's somebody sucker punches somebody with their helmet off. That is not this. That's not a bar fight. There's no one breaking a bottle. This is football, tackling. Like, that is totally different.
It was almost like Joe Judge this was boiling, put the pads on, and the first second they could, it simmered over. Get it out of your system, and now let's play disciplined football, and I think they will.
What about people out there, the naysayers, the critics who are saying you can't have the quarterback at the bottom of the pile? Why did he involve himself? There's that bit to this, too. Like, nobody wants to see that.
That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, that has to be taught.
I love Denver.
You like that?
I don't like him. I like him in it, not at the bottom. Like, you got to get in it, though. It's like when the bench is clear in baseball, you see all the guys run out from the bullpen, too, because everyone they don't want to be in the fight. They just don't want to be the guy who was still sitting there. But I love that you can't be the guy who's sitting there. Daniel Jones has to be involved.
If you're the owner, if you're Gavin.
I know. It's a very, the old man in a cloud, the quarterback shouldn't be there, but I love that.
They showed Jason Garrett had a T-shirt on yesterday. It just said "fight" on it. Like, it was almost before this even happened. His shirt.
I didn't see that.
Fight. Like,
really?
I think this has been a motif.
Do you think Judge secretly is like, hell yes?
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
A lot of coaches want it to happen.
Listen, some coaches almost tell it to happen.
Coach told me to happen.
Right?
Really?
Start something today.
Start a fight today.
Dude, that happens.
Really?
Set the tone.
Sure enough, I did. I lit a fire.
Schwartz told you
Guess
that?
what? Competition level rose through the roof. We won the next week.
Oh, I